Hey guys, I think we'll start. We've only got 40 minutes on this first one. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the unlimited time once we get this up and rolling. Can everyone see in the same order I am? So we've got John and myself. Is that how we're seeing it in Alzy and in Chris? Is that how everyone's seeing the screen?
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing me next to you, and then John, Chris, Billy.
I just think that first maybe we sort of introduce ourselves, where we're from, what we do as a job, and we can sort of go from there. We'll start off with John, and we'll go sort of through the windows.
Yeah, hi, I'm John Reid. I'm external transport manager. I'm based in the central belt of Scotland. I live just outside Stirling. Been a transport manager since 2009, albeit internally up until 2 years ago when I started doing external transport managers for a few operators. I knew that I was going to be made redundant a couple of years ago. I work in the coal industry, and it's a decline that's been going down the way for many years. So I started doing external transport managing a couple of years ago in preparation to kind of switch in to do this full time. I was made redundant at the end of last year, so I'm now looking to do this full time going forward. I'm named on 3 licenses just now, with a total of just 6 vehicles, 4 for one another, and one another. It's a recovery operator, a wholesale fishmonger, and a general haulage. He's got tankers, flats, and tippers. So that's currently what I'm doing just now.
My name is Martin. I'm provisionally Class 1 driver in Central London for 9 years. I'm now transport manager for Force Gold Company, 21 vehicles for Force Gold, Moffat specialist, and we basically run vehicles in Central London to all the building sites. Like that. I'm also the Force practitioner as well for the company. So if anyone needs any system with Force, I might be able to give you a hand there. Apart from that, so I used to do Class 1, all in Central London on Moffats for Travis Perkins actually, and sort of worked my way up from there. And now I'm looking at sort of doing a DGSA course and some more qualifications along them sort of lines.
I'm Alan. I passed my CBC back in 1991, the first one when I was on the post office. On the post office for 20 years. Never used the CPC really, because I left the distribution function and went into delivery office. I left the post office, and at 2009, 2010, I'd got a job as a transport manager with a confectionery company. So I had to take the whole CPC again, the national and international, because the old one wasn't compatible with it. I did that for 7 years. And then a couple of years ago, I'm getting old, so I didn't want to work 50, 60 hours for the rest of my life. So I left the confectionery company and started doing external work. So I'm on 4 licenses now, a scaffolding company, a home removal storage company, a guy who does general haulage, and a company did do steel works, transport steels to houses and so forth. And that's where I am now, just part-time really. The bits of other, bits and pieces as time allows me. But yeah, just looking, heading towards retirement really.
Next, Chris.
Yes, hello, good evening everyone. I'm in the PSV world, as you can see on my name, PSV Solutions Limited, is my own company. I also cover external management, been in the industry 30 plus years now, about 10 years in management, deal with driver CPC training, both LGV and PCV, and I'm currently taking bookings. I'm only on 1 license at the moment. 2 of my customers I've lost in the last sort of 6 or 7 months due to the COVID pandemic. Both have gone under, unfortunately. So yeah, I've got scope for taking on customers there as well, clients. If anyone knows of anyone in the PCV world looking for a transport manager, then yeah, I'm up for that at the moment. Yeah, we took on a new office just 3 months ago, but the way things are going, whether we're going to keep it going or not, I'm not too sure. But I'm being able to work from home most of the time anyway, and covering driver CPC training remotely which has been a great godsend in the last few months as well. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, really. So if anyone's got any drivers that need any training, do give me a shout, please.
We've got Billy next.
My name is Billy. Been involved in the industry for about 35 years, class 1 driver, done 15 years of European work. Currently work as a freelance driver trainer. Been doing that for about 14, 15 years. Teach transport manager CPC. I'm an external transport manager for a company not far from me, down in the Midlands. Don't let the accent fool you. I'm in the Midlands, and I'm on the licence for as I say, a company with one vehicle. Suits my needs, because obviously it's nice and easy to look after whilst I'm kind of running around the country doing other bits and pieces. And obviously I'm always on the lookout for as much information as I can when I'm delivering courses, training, etc. The more information I have, the easier it is to keep everybody else supplied. So obviously groups and things like this are ideal for me, which is why I kind of jumped in and joined in. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Maria?
Oh, hi, my name's Maria Jones. I'm a HGV and a PSV qualified transport manager. I own a bus company in North Wales, a place called Llanrwst, which none of you probably ever heard of. I've got 24 vehicles. I'm also a transport manager external for a HGV company. I'm a consultant who I work with a transport specialist solicitors, do audits, gather information for public inquiry, represent people in public inquiry, also teach transport managers CPC on a one-to-one, do OLAC refresher courses, transport manager refresher courses, CPC training, bit of everything really. Got my finger in several pies.
Yeah, you certainly have. Yeah, you do a lot, don't you? James?
James, that me next. My windows are in a different order. Good evening, everyone. So hi, I'm James. I am. So I'll start with saying I'm an internal transport manager. I've been an internal transport manager for about 10 years. I've been involved in distribution and logistics for about 25. I relinquished my role as an internal transport manager about 4 or 5 years ago to change my internal role as to that of a national compliance manager. So I look after transport compliance for Tesco nationally. That's some 4,500 drivers, 150 managers, 60 CPC trainers, 2,500 vehicles, 4,500 trailers, 15,000 van drivers, 5,000 vans. So reasonably big fleet. But obviously the scope of what I do is narrow compared to you guys. You know, I'm a logistician. I look after logistics, primary retail, grocery. So the scope of what I do will be narrower than the breadth of experience that you guys see. But I provide guidance, advice, and training to quite a substantive group of transport professionals.
Got Kelly next.
Hi, mine are in a different order as well. I'm from Cleveleys in Lancashire, and I only passed my exam in September. So I'm hoping to sort of learn a little bit from this, because me and my partner are just starting from the bottom and hoping to work our way up. So that's it, really.
Yeah, I think you certainly got to start somewhere. So I started as a driver for all this time and sort of moved into it. So yeah, you can start. You literally can start from anywhere. Cameron, we've got next.
Evening all. My name's Cameron. I've been in transport for about 25 years. At present, I'm an internal transport manager for Nagle. I've been 7 years in this role. I got my first CPC in '98. But then I moved on to the kind of rail side of the business for a couple of years before coming back to road in 2014. I'm based in Ayrshire at the minute. I've got my ADR and my NEBOSH because the bulk of what I move is Class 1, and I've just taken my site through FORS bronze accreditation. So your help would have been appreciated about a month ago, Martin. But,
I've literally just done the gold and just got the civics for the gold yesterday.
Brilliant. I'll come and see you for the silver then.
Yeah, I'm obviously willing to give anyone any help or anything like that. But yeah. Is it Loana? Is that next? Sorry if I apologize, I got your name wrong there.
Ioana. Hello, everybody. My name is Ioana. I'm new in this industry. I took only last year in March the exam. I work for 2 small company. I have only 6 trucks, and I hope I will learn more about this. That's it.
Hopefully we'll all learn something from this in the months to come. We've got Janet next.
Hi, sorry, I'm nursing a puppy that's been very lively tonight, so it was the only way to keep him quiet. I took my exam in 2004. I've only really started, I was involved with the company for 26 years, but very restricted on what I was allowed to do because the directors were old school. Then I sold that company for them, and I started being an external transport manager, and I'm on 4 licenses at the moment. I'm just about to resign from one because I'm looking at winding down for retirement, but I do a bit of consulting work for a few companies as well, just to keep them, they've got restricted licenses, to keep them on the straight and narrow, but basically winding down now for retirement.
Thank you. Is it Shog next?
Yes, hello, my name's Graham. I stay in Inverness in the north of Scotland. I've got about 25 years HGV Class 1 experience, and went through my transport manager's course about 1.5 years ago, working alongside my present transport manager, who's going to be retiring in about 2 years' time, and just interested in gathering as much information as I can.
Okay. AK.
Hello, good evening. Sorry, my name is Aurelius. I am completely new to the industry. I'm currently trying to set up a small transport company in Essex. And as part of that, looking into obtaining the transport manager license. So yeah, just trying to get some more information.
Okay. I've got Eamon Lily. I'm not sure if you've got a microphone attached at all. It's coming up as you're muted and it won't unmute. No, I can't seem to get you unmuted. No. Okay. Well, obviously, this is the first webinar that we're going to obviously do. When I thought about doing it, I didn't honestly expect to have the response that I got, even to have what we've got 14 participants now. Well, it was not something I expected to have. So I can't say we're 110% prepared, but I thought we'd just use this one to sort of chat amongst ourselves. What surprised me is how different everybody is, and in what different stages we are. We've got small businesses, we've got people who are new, we've got people who are running massive fleets. So it might be really interesting just to speak to each other, and sort of if anyone's got any questions they would like to ask someone based on the experience, it might be a good platform to do that. Going forward, I was thinking, I've had a conversation with a few people about running themed events where we have a speaker from a specific area. I mean, the bloke I was speaking to, who's got a lot of background with the law side of things and public inquiries and things like that, which might be beneficial to some people who either may be going through that or just want to know a bit more information about it, really. So yeah, this is sort of a trial, and I guess we'll just see how it goes, and hopefully we can build a bit of a following. It seems a lot of people online want to do this, so hopefully we can get 15 or 14 up to 30, and basically see how it goes along. If anyone's obviously got any ideas or questions or anything, you're more than welcome to message me or say that, and we can sort of work together to build this as best as possible to something that's really interesting. If you've ever got a problem, you can always sort of mention it on our meeting, our webinar meeting, such.
Yeah, fair play to you, Martin, for organising it. So well done. Obviously, it's I think it's a cracking idea, because obviously everybody has a different idea on how the industry works, and as most people in here know, we have a multitude of varieties within the industry that work under different rules, ADR, etc., etc. So you know, it's an ideal platform to kind of for people that are new into the industry, get an idea of what's going on out there, and obviously for people that have been in the industry a while to get an idea of how the other side of it works, because a lot of us don't look at anything else other than what we do as a whole. Obviously, being a trainer, I look at the whole aspect, because obviously I deal with quite a lot of people under different circumstances. So it's always nice to get a little bit more information than I have already. So well done to you for putting this together, matey.
Thank you. What's really interesting as well is that everybody, we're not all, I mean, I'm from London, we've got people from Scotland, we've got people everywhere. So it gives you a really broad sort of idea of what the industry's like, and how easy or hard it is in this industry for different areas and different types of transport. Has anyone in particular got any questions?
Talking about being from London, what are your opinions on this? Was it direct vision standards? I mean,
Direct vision standards, yeah.
Is it worth? One of the guys I do is a one-man operator, does traction work, and he's humming and hawing about whether to have his, his truck, brand new truck, Mercedes Actros, costs best part of 90 grand, and it's a 0 rating, and it's going to cost him another somewhere between 900 and 1,200 pounds to get it kitted out. Or does he just avoid London?
That's surprising to hear a new Actros to 0 rating. Is it? Is not Actros?
Yeah.
Is it?
It is. I got the certificate from Mercedes today, 0 rating. Yeah.
That's disappointing, isn't it?
The reason why it'll be 0 rating is because Mercedes Actros, all them vehicles have such a high cab. They have such a high cab that there's nothing in the no window in the door. I mean, I've got all DAFs. We've got 21 DAFs, and they're all Euro 6. They're all 0 rating. Every single one of them.
I run majority Mercedes into the city, and they're not 0 rated. Be really interesting. I mean, I'll see if I can find a model number or something. It'd be interesting to see what we're running.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I think the Tesco ones were a lot smaller cabs. If they've got the ones I'm thinking about, he's probably got the big giga space ones, whatever you call them.
That would make sense for us. It's all short work, so that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
Vast majority of Tesco vehicles, they're all day cabs, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
You don't use any sleeper cabs because you never do anything.
We don't drive anywhere.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Our drivers don't drive very far or very often. A few hours a day.
If you have a look at the Mercedes, the cab is extremely high.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, and it claims that you can't see the cyclist. With regards to direct vision, again, it's a bit like fours. If you want to do any work in London, you want to go to any building sites, you've got to have fours. And sort of you've got a gun against your head. If you don't do it, you would potentially lose a lot of work. I mean, all our work is all Moffat. If we wasn't fours, I mean, realistically in London, you've got to be 4 silver minimum. A few sites are 4 gold, but 4 silver minimum. If we wasn't fours, then it'd wipe out all of our work. We wouldn't have any work. We'd have 15 Moffats and Moffat vehicles just sitting in the yard, And for us, it's annoying having to do the audits every year, every single year, because you have the bronze every 2 years, you have your silver every year, so you submit that online. It is one of them tasks that you just are a very boring task, a very sort of tick box exercise. But without that, we wouldn't have no work. So with regards to direct vision, I mean, we're 0 star, and that permit runs out in 2024, and we're not going to do anything. I mean, with being Force Guard, we're all cameraed, we've got sensors. But we're not going to do anything to improve that until we get a new fleet of vehicles. And then obviously we'll have to look at the low cabs, the side windows in the door and things like that. But regards to it, I think again it's a one of them things. It's just if you don't get it, you're not driving into London, are you? That's the thing. I just think
That's
it's
exactly right.
too much money in London, too much work in London to say no, especially if you've only got a small fleet.
I'm starting some new training next week based on FORS accreditation, and that's for the safe urban driving.
Yeah.
I think it's a new course that's just come out, so I've got my first training course on that next Saturday, so might be interesting.
Yeah,
so I do quite a bit of FORS training anyway. I do FORS Truck Smart and low city driving, that sort of stuff.
And you'll have to do that if you want to be FORS Silver accredited. Safe urban driving, low city will be for gold, and that is required for the drivers. Again, otherwise you won't get accreditation.
The only downside of FORS training is everything on it is all geared to being in London. You know what I mean? And of course, if you're a company that's based in the Midlands or the top end of Scotland who come down that way, you know, the vast majority of the training that they do is not even worth it for you as a company because it's all geared to being in London. But obviously, as you say, if you want to work in London, then you know you need to have it because they won't let you into London without it.
I think this needs to be a national standard rather than being a local standard. It should
I was
be a
just
national
about to say,
standard.
Chris, if TfL designed the course so that it appealed to the whole country rather than just geared at London, you'd probably get a lot more people coming on board with FORS. Because me personally, as a personal opinion, I think FORS is a waste of time because it's only geared to London. And if you don't,
and that's it. It's a procurement. FORS is a procurement standard. It's you can dress it up as a safety standard all you like.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a procurement standard. And if I was to be super skeptical, I would say that it was driven financially by ACOM and TfL in the beginning. I'm similarly not particularly a fan of it because I don't think it is a safety standard or a compliance standard. It's a procurement standard, and for that reason, I think it can be off track.
Can I just ask you, I've got no involvement, I've never dealt with FORS at all, I don't really know much about it, but is it much different to earned recognition? I mean, earned recognition is the national kind of standard of the
principle's the same.
Much difference?
No. You're on the right lines with earned recognition.
Standard. I think FORS is more demanding than the earned recognition.
Sure.
But the earned recognition, again, I think was a money-saving expedition from DVSA, which really hasn't taken off as well as they would have liked.
Yeah, because FORS superseded them. That's why, Chris. FORS superseded them. Had DVSA brought earned recognition out a lot earlier, then I think it would have taken off quicker than FORS did.
Yeah, I agree.
And there wasn't a benefit. So the difference with ER was that. And the reason, in my view, that it didn't take off initially is because there wasn't a benefit. What was the benefit to joining? You were going to pay for some audits. You were going to raise your game, which is always a benefit anyway. But what was there to come back? Well, we're not going to give. There won't be any roadside enforcement. Well, if you're FARF compliant, you're not going to get roadside enforcement anyway. So there wasn't really a real benefit. But there wasn't anything else. Last year, I think they made a difference. So last year, when they said, right, do you know, if you're earned recognition accredited, then you can have that 12 months on your MOT guaranteed. No questions. You know, don't matter what you're like, you can have that. And that was the first time we saw a bit of a benefit. And I think more will come. I think you know, completion of your own MOTs. I think there's other stuff, insurance benefits. I think other stuff will come, which we might see, and I don't know this. I'm not a big fan of it, but I think it's getting there. But this is where, and the other advantage it has, and someone touched on it a minute ago, is that does have the potential to give you a national standard rather than a regional one, a localized one like a clocks or a FORS or whatever. That has the potential to be a national standard. And the other thing, of course, and again, I'm speculating here, who knows, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch for us to see in years to come that sort of thing become mandatory. So you've got your self-certification stuff, which is your operator licensing. That's you manage that yourself. And then it could, I think, I can see a time in future when it'll either become mandatory or it'll be something that certain operators have to do, or your TC will say, right, I tell you, your corrective action for doing something wrong is going to be earned recognition. I can see more of it coming because it's a government-centric thing. like I
But
say,
in all
I'm
honesty,
speculating there.
But within the industries that we're in, whether it be HGV or PSV, if transport management standards were at the level they should be at, you wouldn't need any of this anyway. So I think
Operator licensing would take care. You'd only need operator licensing.
if
I
we do our
completely agree.
job, yeah.
And this was the view of the TCs. This is why, to be fair, the TCs don't, and I'm probably putting words in the mouth of some of them, but generally the consensus among the TCs is that they don't like fours, because they say, no, the standard is operator licensing, not whatever procurement standard you're talking about. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it doesn't change. It doesn't change anything. It's interesting, but I think the truth of it is, like you say, if you're operating in London, you've got to have it anyway.
Just going off from what people were saying about standards of transport managers, I actually went in front of the TC to try and save somebody's O license for them, and I would think not many women think like this, but if you're a woman, generally speaking, unless you're one of the modern women, you haven't driven a truck. And I'm a strong believer that really you should learn an industry from the bottom to the top, and you can understand the problems of everyday scenarios. And when I was in front of the traffic commissioner, I said the biggest problem I'm having in this industry is that you ask a company, can I just see how you run things? I said, because you say you've got to do this, but you don't say how it's supposed to be documented or different things. And some local companies helped me out when I first started, and they said, well, I wouldn't do it like this, I'd do it like that. But there's no uniformed way of doing it. I was very fortunate I had a DVSA check about 18 months ago, and I only dropped 1 point, but I had the word about him and to him about it, and I said, everybody you speak to, there's a different scenario. We had an audit on a company the other week, and he's come up with things that I thought, well, I haven't heard of that before. You speak to other people. No, you don't have to go that far. And there's no uniformed idea on things. I find it's a very confusing industry. You think you're doing it right, and then somebody comes along and says yes, gives you full marks. Then somebody else can come along the following week and downmark you. Now, people that have driven and gone into the business most probably aren't having that scenario, because they've actually seen transport managers and how they work. I've come straight into it when I started, of not just going on the course and saying you're now a transport manager. So I've learned the hard way. I don't know whether other people feel that.
Yeah, the qualification's one thing. Being able to use it properly is another thing altogether. And that's,
exactly.
That's a learning curve that goes on over time and continuous. And it's hence why when you talk to transport managers that are qualified and they've not sat an OLAT course for 10 years or they've not had a refresher for 20 years, it's kind of like, how is that allowed? This is something that should be done every 5 years. They're not going to say if you fail it, you'll take away your TM license, certificate to work, but you have to sit refresher courses to be able to stay up to date. And it's exactly the same as drivers doing CPC. Yeah. They're doing CPC over 5 years to keep themselves up to date with legislation, to understand that how their job's got to be done. And as a CPC trainer, I'm absolutely appalled at the poor knowledge of drivers that are taking training, and then they'll just slag training off. They just say, what a waste of time. And you say, well, do you know all the laws? Do you know all the rules? And as a trainer, I catch them out every single time. And I don't want to catch them out. I want them to know the answers. But it's the same for us as well. We've got people in the industry that think, I know it all. I don't need refresher training. I've qualified. That's it. End of story. And it really isn't like that. It's ongoing. CPD, we all need it. We should all be doing that.
I try and do a course every year. And I've asked companies if I could come round, see if they've got any ideas that would help me or any ideas I've got that would help them, and nobody's interested in really helping. They don't want to help you. It's almost and as I say, I've had a few companies that, I mean, the TC I thought was very helpful. And I said there wasn't actually a register of transport managers of a level. I mean, you can have the qualification. It doesn't mean to say you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And he sort of said to me, he said, well, there you go. You could start a company up and get a. And I said, well, I'm heading for retirement. If I was 20 years younger, maybe. But, you know, and also you try and train some of these drivers that have been driving 30, 40 years, and they see a female and immediately it's, well, you know nothing, love, sod off.
Well, I think
and I sit them down and say, you're not moving till I've finished, whether you like it or not.
well, one of the phrases I hear in our industry a lot is, well, that's open to interpretation. Well,
yes.
I hate that phrase. Nothing should be open to interpretation. It's either done this way or it's done this way. You know, because if my interpretation is different from your interpretation, you know, we're miles apart to start with. You shouldn't have that. That's a phrase. It shouldn't happen. This is how something should be done, and do it like that. And it should be simple as that, really.
The other thing that you gotta remember, for those you guys that all hold the qualification, is when you actually train to be qualified as a transport manager, they teach you in a cloudy, fluffy land that has nothing to do with the real world. I mean, you guys that have got the qualification and work as transport managers, when was the last time you actually costed a job? When you subcontract the work out, when was the last time you asked a subcontractor to put in a costing for the job? You don't. You tell him how much the job is and he takes it or leaves it. Nobody costs a job anymore. Nobody does any of that stuff anymore in the real world, right? But obviously to gain the qualification, because of the level the qualification is at, for you to gain that qualification, you have to know how to do these things, which is why it's taught in that way. But once you get into the real world, it's a completely different world to what you've just learned in the classroom.
Isn't that the same with any exam to pass the driving test, to whatever it is? There's a certain way you've got to do it to pass, and then you go off and do whatever you want to. Yeah. I mean, I took my exam back in 2004, and then I was the only female, and I was in a room with full of lorry drivers, and they were doing it for driving, not for transport manager. I know it's all different now, but it was an eye opener of what they took as absolute nonsense. We'll do it to pass the exam, but that will be it, type of thing.
See, the other thing that you got to remember as well is a lot of people get qualified and think that's it. And they do no more training after that because they think they're getting enough training on the job.
No.
I mean, guys that have held the certificate for quite a long time have never done any more training outside of actually passing the course. I mean, I do all that courses and I do audits for the traffic commissioner and stuff like that on companies. And the amount of times I've been in a company and the transport manager hasn't done any other training, but he's held his qualification for 20 years.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's not kept himself up to date with what's going on. So, you know, the recommendation is, even the likes of myself and Chris that teach it, the recommendation is that you get refreshed every 2 or 4 years. And and obviously as trainers, we keep ourselves well up to date with what's going on.
And I get refreshed as well. I get refreshed from driving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Transport managers, when I'm doing a lesson during the day, generally I will come away with something I didn't know or something cleared that I wasn't certain about.
I haven't done a driver CPC course yet that I've delivered to drivers and not come away from that course learning something from the drivers. You know what I mean? So we all learn. We're all continually learning. So, you know,
you can learn from every day because it's changing and evolving all the while, isn't it?
Definitely changing all the time, and this is why. And again, it's embedded in there. This is no longer a talking point. The TC's embedded it in the statutory documents about 3 years ago, where they amended that paragraph, and now it specifically says that the experience by qualification alone is not enough. You've got to provide evidence of CPD. I think what's missing, CPD is great if you're going, but again, is it a bit academic? Is it a bit going a bit of a classroom and learn something? I think what's missing. And some of you've kind of alluded to it, is this bit about mentoring.
Yeah.
So you get a new transport manager in place and they know their stuff, that's great. They're really hungry and willing and ready to go and get stuck in, which is awesome, but you can't give them the experience. You know, they've got a choice. They can either play at it for 5 years, shall we say, 5 years, I would say, to get yourself really up to a level of professionalism, a really good experience. But I think you can do better than that if there was some sort of mentoring system out there, that there's training and there's, I think what would be good, and someone touched on it in terms of this would be a good venture. I think what would be useful is if there was some sort of mentoring process, whether it be an individual or a group you could go to and say, look, I'm a new transport manager. Help me through this. Do you want to spend the next year with me? And because all those things that a transport manager's been at it 5 years plus or longer, or has been in a breadth of different operations, so really picked up some experience, that's where they'll really benefit from that. But if you just go in and finding your feet, finding your own way, that's what makes it difficult and can be costly, because if you do the wrong thing, you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but it'd be good to see some sort of mentoring program out there from, so your experienced guys can support the new guys.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that, James.
I still think we as managers should be doing some kind of formal training every year. You know, they say, the driver should do a day a year, really, but they don't, do they? They all leave it to the end of the 5 years and then cram it in, and everybody puts their prices up and rub their little hands together. But we should be doing at least what they do. Really, that's what I think, anyhow.
The 5 year refresher is only really pushed if you're trying to go on a new license. If you're not trying to go on a new license, you're left alone pretty much.
Yeah.
Unless you've had any issues over 5 years, you don't do anything.
And it's the same thing, isn't it? The chat, and I'm a big fan of all that, and I recommend that our transport managers, as a minimum, do all that every 3 years. But let's face it, it's the same stuff, isn't it? The all that now isn't vastly different from the all that 2 years ago. I think there's other opportunities. I think transport managers should be getting out, and I don't know what it looks like. There's conferences, there's webinars. Yeah, I think there's other things that should be on your CPD that aren't that all that or I'll go and do a driver's hours CPC course or something like that. I think there's other stuff you can get involved with. There's some good conferences out there up and down the country every year, which I think are useful as well. And again, the point may be is, how do we get that out there? I attend a number of conferences up through the year, and I rarely see external transport managers at them. These are all corporate things, and the people that organize them target the companies. So you'll see big players there. You'll see your big own account people like your Veolias and DHL. But what you don't see is externals and small operators, because they either don't have the money, they don't have the time, or sometimes for good reasons. But again, I wonder how we can get that. I wonder how that could be improved.
I think that's a lot to do. You don't get to know about them. I mean, the ones I've found out about, which has been accidental, that I've gone on, but I think the refresher courses, I've done quite a few of them, and they hit on the same thing every time: how to apply for an O license. And I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go again. Can we have something new, something different, something, it's pretty standard how to apply for an O license and things like that.
And you're not going to learn the new stuff. So you're not going to learn about DVS. You're not going to learn about the expansion of the low emission zone. You're not going to learn about clean air zones up and down the country. The street space schemes. Well, there's hundreds of them, isn't there? All these new things that are being introduced. You're not going to pick them up from the old lads. You need to be, it's all right me preaching. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. Maybe groups like this are the answer, and we expand this eventually. But it's about engaging, making it easy for people to engage with the industry that they work in a way that in a way that they can. It's not easy.
There's been some good webinars recently, I must say, since the lockdown's been coming in. I've joined in quite a few webinars and recently sat on one that Kevin Rooney was on, and that was a really interesting webinar to sit on. It was not for any specific reason, but it was just generally to find out what sort of things the traffic commissioners expect from us.
Sure,
You know, and
sure.
one of the things that was highlighted was something like bridge strikes. Now, if a driver has a bridge strike, what happens? Kevin Rooney said the first thing from a driver's point of view is he's suspended now for 6 months. That's it. No questions asked. 6 months minimum. But also, we're going to be looking at the transport manager. What did the transport manager do to prevent this happening? And this sort of webinar was really useful because that's where you're getting information of the things that are not widely available, or would something you wouldn't probably read even surfing through the internet.
Absolutely right. What's on their agenda?
This, you know, this is information I'm now just giving to you guys where you think, oh, what's a transport manager got to do with a driver hitting a bridge? Well, Kevin Rooney, as probably the chief traffic commissioner in the country, said you're the first person we look at.
Yeah, absolutely right.
The other thing I've found in my experience, again, doing audits and being in various companies, 9 times out of 10, when I go into a company to do an audit, they're already in trouble with the traffic commissioner. They're already going to a PI. So they already know they've not got it quite right. But the thing that amazes me quite a lot is when I sit down with the transport manager of that particular company and start questioning about what he's doing with these drivers and how he makes these drivers understand how they've broken the rules. And the vast majority of transport managers that don't understand the rules is phenomenal. And I just sit there gobsmacked and say to them, well, you know, how can you tell the driver he's done something wrong if you don't understand what it is he's done wrong? You know what I mean?
90% of them don't even know how to deal with an infringement letter.
No.
They don't know how to deal with it.
Some of them don't even know what an infringement is.
Sign this, don't do it again. Well,
it's
not good enough. You know, you've got to tell the driver, you've got to work it with the driver to say, this is what you've done wrong. This is how you need to do it right. And then say, don't do it again. But
it's quite
just
scary.
sign it and walk away.
It is quite scary, the amount of traffic transport managers out there that can't do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there you are. You're probably going to run out of your 40 minutes on it, Martin. So I'll pass over to you, I think.
They've actually extended it, so it's indefinite now. I don't know why. A little icon popped up says we're releasing you for your 40-minute time. So
they're trying to suck you into buying the product.
Of course they are. Yeah.
You're going to get a big bill coming through, mate.
I have to register in someone else's name.
I was going to say the other thing you can do, rather than doing it on Zoom, is we're all on Facebook. You can do it through Messenger. Remember, you get the same video call through Messenger, which is completely free anyway.
There, though. The good thing with Zoom is you can record the call.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We can all. I can if everyone's okay with it, I can upload it to the group, and then everyone else who hasn't seen it sort of see what we're chatting about, and if it is their kind of thing, then they can sort of join in.
Yeah, of course.
That's the long-term plan. I mean, already the stuff that's coming out of people here is beneficial to me already. So I'm sure it's beneficial to everyone else, and the months to come. Like
Kelly, there, sorry, but in Martin, Kelly, you're new to the industry. You've only just passed the course. I heard you saying, and obviously this is all probably fairly new to you, having passed the course. I mean, is the course anything to what you've had to do since you've started?
I admittedly, I just passed and I don't know very much at all. And I didn't find the exam that difficult. It's more difficult now than it was to pass the exam because it's not taught me what to do at all. I still don't know what to do. So we don't want to cut corners and we don't want to do anything wrong. We want to be the best that we can. So now I'm just trying to find out ways that I can learn.
Where did you learn, Kelly, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry?
Where did you learn? Who did you do it through?
I booked on a classroom course with Enquiries, but because of COVID, it got cancelled, so I ended up doing it online.
Right.
And it was fine. Like I passed the first time, but I don't find the exam in general was very helpful to everyday life.
Because it's cloudy, fluffy land. That's the thing. I don't know about you, Chris, but I know when I teach it, I always say to the candidates I've got on my course, here's my phone number. If you pass the exam and you find yourself in a position where you're working as a transport manager and you're unsure of anything, phone me.
Yeah, no, I've got I don't know, at least probably 24 people
Yeah.
that will call me out of the blue and
On a
I'm quite
regular
happy to give
basis,
them
yeah.
information. But I've also got people that will ring me and say, I don't want any certificated lesson, but can you fit me in for a day just to do a day, go through the book? There's a few things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to
Yeah.
pay for your day to do that. And
Yeah.
I've got a couple of days coming up actually. I've got 2 guys retaking their exam in March the 12th, I think the next exam day. And they're with me on the 10th and 11th. So they want 2 days. I said, look, I'll do 1 day as an OLAT, which will help you anyway and give you 7 hours towards your CPC, and 1 day's revision towards your exam. And they're sort of, well, we wouldn't know who else to use, because it's not just about, like Kelly was saying, passing the exam. It's about being able to use that qualification and reaching the standards that the TC requires, because you pass your exam, you can go out tomorrow, you can make a big mistake, which can come back to bite you, and the TC's answer would be, well, you should have known.
Yeah, you should have known.
You know,
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's not that simple, is it? Sometimes it's the real world, and it's exactly the same with driver CPC. You know, I can sit here and tell them this is how you have to do it, but we live in the real world as well, and sometimes it's not quite that simple. You know, all this stopping every 2 hours if you feel tired and blah blah blah. It's just, in the real world, it doesn't happen. So we try and do CPC as into what's expected, what the standards are, but also in the real world, this is how we need to do it, and you know, use that information the best way we can. And I think the key thing, as we started with it early in the seminar, in the chat, was that we all need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, raising the standards, making sure that we're doing the job the best we can, educating the drivers in the best way we can, rather than telling them they're a bunch of dickheads and sending them down a road for another job. Let's educate people and make sure that we do get it right, because we know what it's like. You know, if there's a serious crash tonight involving a coach and a lorry, it burns us all. So, you know, it's just reaching those standards and trying to get people to learn the real world stuff, which isn't that easy. And as James said, if we can come up with a standard that isn't fours or clocks, whatever, that fits for all traffic on the roads, you know, because I'm a firm believer that anybody that drives for a living, whether it be a post office van or a class 1 lorry, should have some sort of training to be on the road. They're earning a living from their job. They should be trained to do the job the best they can, do it properly. But there you go. That's another story for another day.
There was a rumour for a while, Chris. I don't know if you heard the rumour, but there was a rumour for a while saying that they were thinking of dropping the threshold for operator license from 3.5 down to 3.
No, I heard last week. I heard last week that from 2026 it's down to 2.5.
2.5. Right. I know I'd heard a rumour. This was going back last year. That they were talking about dropping the threshold to 3 ton to incorporate the vast majority of white van drivers, because the vast majority of white vans out there are 3 ton. So they were talking about dropping it down to that level to bring them into driver CPC and driver's hours and stuff like that, to try and avoid you know, white van men driving around hundreds and hundreds of hours a week. I mean, so I thought it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard last week. It was coming down to 2.5 ton. One of my bugbears, the people I hate a lot, who should come under hours, is taxi drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, I go and get a minicab. He might have worked for 30 hours.
Yes.
And he's taking my life in his hands.
There is training for taxi drivers, though. There is training out there for them. I don't know if you provide any of that sort of training, Chris, but certainly a couple of the training providers that are freelance for do taxi training and stuff like that. So there is training courses out there for taxi drivers.
Yeah, but there's no monitoring of their hours control of their hours. That should be controlled.
Yeah,
I think, like I say, anybody that works professionally on the road should have formal training and be restricted in how many hours a week they can work. Because what's the difference really between driving a 3.5 ton van and a 2 ton van? What is the difference if you're going to do 150 hours in a week? You know, it's
a lot of that talk about lowering the threshold down to 2.5 was driven by the EU as well. So I think it'd be interesting to see if domestically there's an appetite for that, because it'll meet a lot of resistance because administratively it's a massive burden for that's the part of the market that's growing, not heavies. It's the vans that's growing, and it'd be really interesting how much resistance there is from the industry to the administrative burden of either whether it be operator licensing or a training requirement or something. I'm not weighing in either way. I'm just saying that I think it'll be a tough challenge for it to be introduced.
I think something's got to be done, especially, when you see 3.5 ton trucks running around with massive trailers on the back, little transit low loaders with big heavy cars on them. It does need controlling.
Yeah, because there's nothing at the moment, really, is there?
Well, there's something that's getting ahead of the mark, because I've just covered a couple of different councils in London, all the drivers for the council. None of them need driver CPC, but they've both borough councils have been qualified now, even though they don't need to be. So they're getting ahead of the game. So there could be something in it coming forwards. I don't know.
When you're talking about the threshold coming down, are you talking about that just for CPC training, or are you talking about that the sort of your average white van man's going to have a tachograph fitted?
No, they're talking about bringing it down so that anything over 2.5 ton has to come under an operator license. So therefore, yeah, you're going to have to have a tachograph fitted to the vehicle.
Right.
The driver's going to have to have the qualification, driver CPC qualification. He's going to have to comply with rules and regulations, etc., etc. So they were talking about incorporating all just purely and simply to stop van drivers working as many hours as they do, because there's a lot of van drivers out there that they're doing 80, 90, 100 hours. You know what I mean? And some of them are. I mean, I certainly in the past I know some van drivers that were leaving the depot at 4 o'clock in the morning. They weren't coming back to the depot till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then they were back in the next morning at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And this is why I said it was driven by the EU, because, and I must admit, I'd have to double check now. I don't want to commit to this because I'd have to go and read it, but I'm pretty sure that the EU mobility package that changed our legislation in about July or August of last year had a 2.5 ton element in for international work. It didn't affect you if you were domestic, but if you were doing international work, there was an additional burden put on 2.5 tons. And the worry, I mean, it's a bit different now, we're not in the EU, the worry was that if there was then a mechanism available for it to be introduced, then it would be easy for us to go there. Like I say, it might be different now, we're not connected to them, but that there was certainly something in the change in the middle of last year.
It's not only the hours, though, is it? It's also the vehicle maintenance of these vans.
Yeah.
Oh,
that could be very hit and miss.
Yeah. I mean, I know they've targeted the agricultural side of life, and tractor drivers. Some tractor drivers were delivering all their own goods on a big trailer, with a tractor and stuff like that. And I know they've kind of hit them and told them that they need an operator license if they're delivering their goods to somebody that's going to sell them on. They have to have an operator license to transport the goods on their trailer, because there was a lot of tractor drivers just having a trailer in the farm, filling it up and then hooking up to the tractor and taking it down to the guy that's supplying it out for them. And of course,
when I get stuck behind them, I hit him as well with a baseball.
So I mean, the industry is trying to make changes. Some of them for the better, some of them not quite for the better. But I think I agree with James, though. If we could all sing off the same hymn sheet, it would certainly make the job a lot easier, wouldn't it?
And again, there's been a bit of an introduction, hasn't there? So the 4.25 ton electric requires driver CPC 5 hours, doesn't it? So there's a bit of creep there into the van world. That Class B derogation on electric 4.25 ton.
I've got a question, please, which somebody's come to me tonight, just as you started this. He's just got his operator's license. He's got a refrigerated vehicle that's 3.5 ton. It's on the O license. And he's come to me tonight and said, I can't get a qualified driver to drive it at the moment, but he said, I've been told there's a new law out this last month that anybody with an ordinary driving license can drive a 3.5 tonner, as long as it's got no goods on it.
You can drive a 3.5 tonner if you're pre-97.
Yeah.
Right. He says it's a new law that came out, and I'm thinking, hold on. I said, leave that with me. I said, that seems a bit weird, but I didn't dispel him.
I've not seen anything new in the last month, I must say.
Yeah,
Pardon?
pre-1997, Janet.
Sorry?
If you passed your test before 1997, you automatically had grandfather rights to drive up to seven ton. So you could drive any vehicle up to that size without having to do any other training. After 1997, anybody that passes a test now, if they want to drive a larger vehicle, has to do a separate test now. So if he had his license before 1997, then he would already have the entitlement to drive that vehicle.
Right, I wouldn't have thought so personally. I will check that out. But he sort of said, and I said, but you saying you just want to drive your vehicle because you can. But I said, if you are carrying your goods, I said, you can't. And he said, well, yeah, I'm just transporting them somewhere. And I said, oh, for goodness sake. And he says, it's a new law that's come out. And I'm thinking, well, I've seen nothing about a new law just come out.
You can't operate without a licence. End of.
Just ask,
I thought
him,
as much.
Yeah, just ask him when he passed his test, Janet.
Yeah, I will.
If he's passed it before 97, then yes, he can. If he's
drive
passed
the
it
vehicle,
after
but he can't carry
97,
the goods.
then no, he can't.
Carrying goods, and you know, if it's, well, it depends what he's carrying, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, what's on board?
Hung meat. They've got an
You've got a
abattoir.
standard licence, though.
Pardon?
Is it a standard or restricted licence?
A standard O licence.
You can't operate with goods until you've got the licence.
Yeah, he's got the licence. It's come through this last week, and he rang me up and said, I've been told that because my driver can't start.
And how big's the lorry?
Pardon?
How big's the lorry?
3.5
3.5 ton.
What's the matter with driving a 3.5 ton?
Is it more than 3.5 ton?
It will be when it's ladened.
So what's subject to when he passes?
So it's a 4.5 ton then, or a 5 ton double axle sprinter or something. Then is that what we're saying, or?
Yeah.
So it goes over 3.5 ton.
Yeah.
He's plated over 3.5 ton. Well, no, he needs the boost, doesn't he?
It's got to be a qualified CPC qualified driver, hasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, because you're all right driving anything up to 3.5 ton, aren't you? Because we've got wheel-based transits that are 3.5 ton plated, and they're absolutely fine.
I think somebody's got in his ear somewhere and he was testing the waters. Because I said, well, I'm sure I'd have had an email somewhere with all these emails I get through every day that would have told me of this new law that had come out. And I was going to ring somebody up tonight who I know does training. And I thought, while you were all on, I'd ask you, just in case I'd missed something, but it makes a mockery of the whole system if that was the case.
If he's qualified, Janet, he'll have a C1 on his license.
No, he's just got a standard driving license.
Then he's after 97.
Yeah.
Which means he won't have the entitlement to drive it. Which is the answer is no, he can't.
No, yeah, I thought as much, but I thought I'd put it out there. Better be safe than sorry.
Anyone else got any more questions or anything like they want to ask? Or
can I go and have my dinner now?
I've got to go. I've got to go and let the puppy out. He's at the back door. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
it easy, Janet.
Bye.
Has anyone else got anything, or should we leave it here for today? Or
sorry, do you mind if I just ask one, just because there's a couple of quite maybe able to answer it quite well. So I've had my road haulage transport management certificate since 2009, and like Kelly, after doing the qualification, I didn't really know anything, but I was fortunate I could work alongside another transport manager for about 6 months, which, although I would like longer, it was enough to give me the basics and to get me started. So now, 11 years later, I think I'm quite competent in what I'm doing road haulage wise, but I'd like to expand my skill set and maybe thinking about PSV. If I was to go and do PSV, once I passed, do you think my current knowledge, along with what I would gain on the actual learning for the course and doing the exam, would that give me enough confidence to then move into?
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
A
I
lot
think
easier.
that's where the course is.
Maria's your girl for that one.
At the end of the day, it's easier because you're only carrying one type of goods, you're carrying passengers. In the haulage industry, there's such a huge variety of different things on the back of that wagon.
Yeah.
You'll find it easy, absolutely. And even doing the exam, anybody that I'm teaching, doing the haulage, transport manager qualifications, I do advise them, look, whilst it's fresh in your mind, do the bus one as well. Because the questions, the company name, they're practically identical. The costing is the same. The scheduling is the same. It's only a very few questions that are different. So yes, definitely. And you know, keep in touch, because anything you want to know, I've been running a bus company, and I just share a giggle because you were talking about tonnage. I've obviously got buses and I've got taxis and I've got a cross section and I've got coaches. And I always laugh. I've got a 16-seater Ford Transit that carries 16 passengers, which is under my own license. I've also got the same size transit vehicle with 8 seats in it and a cage at the back, which is classified as a taxi. Completely different rules and regulations, which is hilarious because it's the same size bloody vehicle. Why is it more important that you can kill 8 passengers rather than 16? It makes no damn difference at all. For qualifications, you need to drive a taxi. There aren't any. There's no driver's hours rules. There's no regulations. They've tried to bring white papers in. And in fact, the rules are actually different in every region. It's a local authority decision on what colour your cab is, how many years old it should be. It's so many different, and so they are trying to bring back first the rules and regulations first together before they even can consider looking at bringing driver's hours rules and regulations in, because it's just completely different across the board. Very fascinating. And one other thing I wanted to mention was, I've been to PI a few times representing people, and I don't know if our Welsh TC is wonderful. Mentoring is something that he's put on an undertaking on a few occasions, and I do go out to people once every 3 months, he puts it in the undertaking as often as the consultant feels it's necessary, but he has also put on an undertaking in the past that it's got to be a Welsh speaking one, because obviously where I am,
you've got Nick Jones down there, haven't you? Yeah,
he's retired. Nick's retired now, but he's still
right. I've had to dealing with Nick quite a few times, and I find him a very capable TC. I thought he was one of the better TCs that I'd come across, and he's always willing to help. That's the thing that got me about him. He was always happy in guiding you down the right path and where you needed to be.
Yeah, I've just been in public inquiry with Backhouse Jones representing somebody in Carnarvon, very North Wales, very Welsh speaking, and they actually tore a strip off Backhouse Jones and said, don't ever send a solicitor here to represent a Welsh speaking company who is not Welsh speaking themselves, because we've got a language barrier and it's quite a difficult one across here. But he's a big advocate of mentoring, learning. Kelly, something that he would have recommended with you is, look, if you can, if there's somebody that you trust locally who is already a qualified transport manager, ask them if they'll help you. Get your wall planner set up, get your system set up. I've got customers who don't even know what an OCRS score is.
Yeah.
What's an OCRS?
Yeah. What's
I'm in
OCRS?
Wales.
Yeah.
What's an OCRS score? There are a lot of people that aren't even involved.
Yeah.
It's on, there are some areas in Wales that don't even have internet, guys. I had to teach somebody how to set up a bloody printer. So I know you speak about London, but it is great to have a one forum, but it's a vast industry, and I will be dealing with a large industry, for example, Tesco's, Starbucks, whatever, and the next minute I've got Farmer Giles in the field carrying 12 cows to market, and it's completely different. And that's how you learn, Kelly, is you speak to people. But the only thing you've got to be really, really careful of is, and you mentioned it, John, if you've learned from another transport manager, were they doing their job properly in the first place? So have you learned somebody's bad habits or good habits? So just be mindful, don't always rely on one, go to more than one. And I think I mentioned it to somebody on Facebook. If you're new, put it out there, ask the question. It does frustrate me sometimes when people will put a sarcastic comment on there. You know, we're all here to try and help one another. We're all learning, always. And I don't like patronising people that will start taking the piss out of me that don't want to pass your exams.
Every day's a school day.
It doesn't work like that. We're here to help. Any question, whether it's stupid, you think it's stupid or not, somebody will come back with an answer. And just ignore the patronising people who know it all.
Thank you.
What you said about learning from other people. Make sure what you said about learning from other people. Make sure that they're doing the job properly. I was an external transport manager for a company earlier this year, and I walked away from them because of their attitude towards brake testing and maintenance. And one of the drivers said, when a driver passes his test, he just has to get on with it, doesn't he? He learns himself. And I was speaking to one driver, he was new, and I asked him about how he learned, and he said, I just listen to the older guys, they know what they're doing, they tell me what to do. And he said, I've double manned once. He said, we went down to Spain, I didn't put my card in until we got to Portsmouth. I said, I'm sorry. I said, you what? I said, you want from here to Portsmouth without putting your card in? He went, yeah. I said, why? He said, the woman in the office told me to save my hours. I mean, and he thought it was perfectly all right.
That's probably for John. The only other thing to look at if you're going to do the PSV exam is probably a bit on double manning, because you don't do so much double manning on the lorry side as you do on the bus and coach side. So double manning is about the only part. So double manning, get clued up with that a little bit.
I don't know how you guys feel, but especially from my experience, I've always, and including when I've been driving and as a transport manager, I've always found it's the older people who do not want to learn. They generally know it all, and you cannot teach them anything. It's the younger people who actually will do the training, want to do the training, and want to better themselves. And I say the older generation who are.
That's up to us as trainers. If we're doing that training, I mean, I recently had to do a transport manager refresher for quite a big company not far from me, and the owner is very, very old school. And
I hate that place.
When I walked through the door, he looked at me like I was some young piece of scum. By the end of the day, he shook my hand and said, I've taken a lot from that today. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. And that's the thing. I think you're right that the trainers have a big impact on that, but it's got that culture has got to be bred by the owner, the director, the transport manager, whichever. In fact, often not the transport manager. It's these company owners, big and small, that need to have the right culture in place, isn't it? If you get a good culture, you even your older guys who are perhaps a little bit more stuck in the ways, you'll win them round if your culture is right.
I done a driver CPC course a couple of years back, and it was on driver's hours. And of course, once they'd all sat down, one of the class clowns, because there's always one.
There's always one on a CPC course, at least one.
At least one, yeah. And class clown kind of pipes up. What's the course on today, trainer? And I says, driver's hours. He says, I don't need to sit here, I know it all. I was like, yeah, that's perfect. You're my candidate straight away. So within about the first, I think it was about 3 minutes of the course starting, I asked him a question, he couldn't answer it. And I says, I thought you knew it all. And he just looked at me and I says, so maybe you should just kind of pin your ears back and listen for a while. You might learn something by the end of the day.
Billy, see when it comes to driver's hours, does anybody know it all?
No. I'm not bad.
I would like to say
I can always get caught out, however many infringements I've seen.
I would like to say I could tie most people up in bubbles on driver's hours. There's not many people can catch me out on driver's hours.
It's one of my fortes, and I think it needs to be as a CPC trainer. Because if a driver asks you a question or he kind of refutes what you've said to him, you need to know that you're right, because otherwise your reputation's just gone straight away, because it might be a massive industry, but it's a very small world these days. So it's important to get it right.
Here's one I throw at them normally, but I normally do this visually. I normally put it up on a board when we're talking about driver's hours, and it's all about the reducement of daily rest periods. And of course, the question always comes along of how many times can I reduce my daily rest? And of course, you'll get all the good answers. They'll tell you that you're allowed to do it 3 times. And I always say to them, 3 times when? And it'll be 3 times a week.
No.
And it'll be, are you sure? And I go, yeah. So normally what I do is I put up a week on the board, Monday through to Sunday, and I'll put reduced rest Monday, reduced rest Tuesday, reduced rest Wednesday. Come to work on Friday, and I'll reduce my rest Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And I'll say to them, can I do that? And of course, most drivers will turn around and say no.
No.
And I'm like, okay, why not? And they go, because you're not allowed to. Okay, why? But none can give you the answer. You know what I mean? And of course, and the reason that most drivers can't give you the answer is because they forget the key wording, which is that you're allowed to reduce your daily rest 3 times between weekly rest periods.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, what I do then is I throw in a 24-hour rest period on Thursday, and I say to them, can I do it now? And of course, then some will go, yeah, you can do it. And I go, why? You told me I could only do 3 a week. That's a week. You're now telling me that's okay. Why? You know, and of course, it just gets them thinking.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And of course, it just makes drivers realise that you understand the rules far better than they do.
There's
course,
plenty of ways
yeah.
of kind of that, and they really do. And I think the key thing, when you're doing the education as well, is I don't expect anybody to walk away with 7 hours of brand new knowledge.
No.
But what I do expect is to walk away with 2 or 3 little things that they think,
See, I always say to them, if you gain that much knowledge in the 7 hours you've been here, then I've succeeded in what I set out to do at the start of the day, which is impart a little bit of knowledge onto you guys.
But if you was to go back and do your transport manager's revision days again, and you sit there for 5, 6 days in a classroom, you're never going to remember every single minute of everything you did in that course. And hence why, you've taken enough to be able to pass the exam, but there's lots of things that are in that book that I still look at now and again to refresh myself that you will have forgotten about that you did cover on that exam. And
I've done mine twice.
Drivers. The drivers are going to take in probably less than what we would take in.
Yeah.
Because most drivers probably, and I don't want to be condescending to anybody, but most drivers probably couldn't pass this exam. They think that they'd like to have a go, but there's not many that would. And that's the key difference between being a transport manager and being the driver. You know, and it's just about working and educating them the best way you can that it's going to sink in to help you protect your repute and the company's operator license. And that's all I'm asking the driver to do. You know, work with me, not against me.
Yeah, as a transport manager, though, you've got to know, you know, and of course, anybody that puts themselves in that position has got to have the knowledge. You know what I mean? And of course, I always stress when I do all that courses with transport managers, I always stress to them, these guys, these drivers that you're looking after are coming to you because you're the font of knowledge for them. Because you're in this area here, you're up here in their books, you're the transport manager, you're the guy that knows it all. So your knowledge needs to be good.
They rely on you for their protection of their license.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do what you can. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there because I do need to go and eat my food. It's getting late. But yeah, just to let you know, Martin, I have got a full Zoom account. So if you ever need to use my login, I'll send you the numbers and you can fire away, use it. It's fine.
Very kind of you.
All right.
So I want to say thanks everyone for coming. Obviously the new people here, I don't want it to sound like being a transport manager of own transport's like the world's going to end and you shouldn't do it. I mean, I've been doing it a year and a half now, and I was a driver before, and I love it, absolutely love it. It's challenging, it's really challenging, and it's frustrating when you think, how do you not know this basic? How do you not, for example, how do you not know how to do a manual entry? And you get people and you've got to show them. It is frustrating from a driver's point of view. You think, well, I've done that all my life, I've always known that. But it's a very, very rewarding job. So I just don't want people thinking that obviously we all talk as problems that we have and doom and gloom. It's certainly not like that on day to day. Because obviously as a new people, I just don't want them thinking that they made a mistake in their career choices.
Yeah.
But yeah,
thank you for a good director.
And what you do, Martin? What are you doing? Are you taking the lead on picking up another session in the future? Is that the plan? Do we want to
monthly? And
that sounds good.
Hoping to get some people on board who like Chris over there, who specialises in something and can literally do a talk in front of people. I can basically post on there. These are the talks we're going to have these months, and the people that are interested will join that. I mean, like I say, if we've got people who are well versed in public inquiries, if people are going for public inquiries, that could be very valuable to them. So I'll just basically post up. We'll have an obviously discussion what people want what people want to chat about, and we just say, oh, February we're going to do this, March we're going to do this.
I think that's a good idea. I think if
if
there's stuff that's on people's minds, it might be worth thinking about topics that people might get a few more people involved if there's something sort of particular topic people are interested in as well.
I was going to say, and for any of the new guys, if you're struggling on anything, don't hesitate to contact us through Messenger or anything like that. You know what I mean? If we can answer the question for you, please feel free. And if I can't answer the question, I certainly know somebody that can. You know what I mean? Because I don't know everything, so I've got my oracle. I'm pretty sure Chris is the same. You know what I mean? The questions I can't answer, I've got somebody that's got far more knowledge than I have that I go to and say, what about this? So if I can't answer it, I'll certainly find an answer for you. So please, feel free to just give us a shout and ask the question. And we'll certainly try and point you in the right direction, because there's no worse than trying to find your way through something that you're quite not sure of. And of course that goes for you, Iona, as well. You know what I mean? If you're stuck, just put it out there, and we'll try and help you the best way we can to keep you on because the last thing you want to do is go to a public inquiry. Maria, I know you've been to one.
I've represented a few.
Yeah, see, I've been on one because of my misdemeanors. So
I've represented. I haven't actually been in one myself.
I broke the rules. So I've been in front of the TC for breaking the rules.
I've seen people, and then from personal experience, it doesn't matter how it may be petty, and you might have had 100% cert from your solicitor. Look, it's just a process. It does not stop your ass from twitching and your heart being in your stomach. It's terrible. You lose sleep. It's not a nice place to be. So don't be afraid to ask to stop yourself. And that's one of the things that when I do OLAC training, I don't do online like you, because it's bespoke, it's Welsh speaking. So I will go to customers' premises. I will do my first day is the theory, going through the rules and regulations. But my second day is generally going to be practical. We do the wall planner, we register on the VOL, we look at the OCRS, we look at a 6-weekly inspection, a daily walk around. So I find it more valuable to actually put the process in action. And then what I'll generally do then is in about 3-4 months time, give them a ring and say, look, do you want me to come and do a little mini audit for you? Or check to see, are you doing it still right? Is it, is there anything you've got? And you're on the end of the phone, and that personal relationship is really, really important. So, but PIs, not nice. It's not nice at all. And that's just being an observer. And in fact, if you ever get an opportunity to go to one, because it's a public inquiry, so it's open to the public, you are entitled to
go to some, definitely.
Go to one. It's very invaluable.
It's something I tell guys that I do OLAC courses with, or guys on TM courses. I always say to them when I'm training them to be a TM, public inquiries are open. It's like a normal court. You just go in and sit down and listen to what's going on. Go listen. Go see what goes on.
Where do you find this stuff? Where do you find where these
in the
happening?
papers? They produce it in the papers.
Well, you can actually go on to check vehicle operator license applications. You click on, I can send this on anyway. Start now. You put in 2021 January, and there's drop down. So you can put in what area you're in. So if you're Wales, you're Northwest, you're England, wherever you are, and it will tell you. And if you click on public inquiries or transport manager public inquiries, it tells you which companies are going to public inquiry, when, what dates, where. So it might be somebody of interest, it might be a competitor.
It's also in the local papers because they have to advertise
notices
it.
and procedures, but not many. This is the actual DVSA Gov website. So it's check vehicle operator license applications. You click on the start now, you put in the month that you want, and you twiddle with the drop down menus to have a look at your area. And then the bottom one is, it could be like operator licenses approved, it can be public inquiries, it can be transport manager public inquiries. It's a font of information in there, which is really useful.
Even if you don't want to go to it, the Traffic Commissioner releases their written decisions every now and again. So the .gov website, you can read the written decisions from public inquiries.
Yes.
So they're quite good as well to read through as if like what not to do, if you like.
I was going to say, send that link through, will you, Maria?
The other thing you come out every Monday.
Do you ever use the messenger button? Check vehicle operator license applications. Just putting it in the message. Then
Yeah.
that now.
Martin, you can get an email from the
Then
Traffic Commissioner's office every 2 weeks.
yeah,
Every first week it's the notice and proceedings for PSV, and the
Yeah.
second one will be for the HGVs, and that's giving you new licenses being granted, but it also indicates what public PIs have been held and then what's been decisions been after. I mean, sadly, I'm late coming to this, so I do apologise, and it is nice to hear some of this. I've been to about 4 or 5 public inquiries. I'm in Lincolnshire, so the northeast traffic region. That's where I am. I'm an external TM. I'm a tachograph bureau service and trainer for an operating TM training centre and all that sort of stuff. So anything I can help with, I've been in the industry since 1992. So I've been a TM. I'm still an external TM. That's why I'm late getting on here tonight. So anything of knowledge I've got, I'm more than happy to share to anybody coming on as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, same as that. So
Good.
thanks, guys. Thanks, Martin. Good
Yeah,
idea.
thanks all for coming.
thank you, Martin.
Is everyone
Take care.
happy for me to post this onto YouTube so I can post it onto the forum thing and so everyone else can see it, and hopefully we'll get some more people next month.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Guys, thank you very much. It's really appreciated. Hopefully we can
Cheers.
build this
Thanks,
something
mate.
really interesting.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.
See you later.
Well done,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.